Hello everybody, my name's Joe Quick and this is Joe's Quick Review. Today we are taking flight with the Brew Barons. Developed by LifeTap Studios, this game will take you on an exciting journey through the skies, exploring the world, foraging for ingredients, crafting a variety of brews and taking on the corrupt brew pirates. It's a lot of fun and here's why. For a small indie game, Brew Barons is packed with content. At its core, you pilot a plane around the islands of Adley Bay, gathering ingredients to take back to your headquarters so that you can attempt brewing the finest beers, whiskies, wine and more to sell to your clients and other bars in the bay. The bars will reach out to you with contracts and it's up to you to create the drink they've asked for and deliver it on time. If that doesn't sound challenging enough, then let's throw in brew pirates into the mix. The brew pirates destroy the island's crops and will attack your plane if you interfere with their activities. But perhaps most importantly, if they are in your way, you can't deliver your brew to complete the contract. The solution is to enter a gunfight with the pirates and scare them off the island. Guns, you say? That sounds violent. Well, don't be too concerned. Our plane only uses the finest eco-friendly water propulsion bullets, bombs and a selection of other unlockable weapons for your arsenal. Amidst all the rush of deliveries and gunfights, the game has a very relaxing pace, where you can enjoy exploring the islands and navigating the skies. With a combination of both flight simulator and farming simulator, as you continue to discover new ingredients and recipes for your brewery. Needless to say, in order to be the best, you're going to have to make some upgrades. Modify your plane to get the best output from farming or fighting, with a combination to suit your playstyle. Recruit new members of the team from around the bay, and work together to iron out their negative traits and make them the best pilots in the Marriott Nation. And that's not all. The game is filled with landmarks to discover, and a variety of mini-games to keep you entertained between contracts. Let's hop in the pilot seat and explore in a bit more detail. The game is clearly inspired by Studio Ghibli's 1992 film Porco Rosso, as you jet around in your little red plane and take on the mischievous pirates. And the art style leans in the same direction. Beautiful little islands dotted around the gently lapping waves of the sea, covered in greenery, with the exception of the small seaside towns. The colours pop out at you, and an element of cel shading on the models give it a slight anime feel. In addition to this, we have the character portraits which pop up during dialogue. Prominent cheekbones and chiselled jaws, unique features and other characteristics comparable to that Ghibli charm, whilst having enough variation to maintain its own individual appearance. The animations and effects are subtle, but still play a key feature in bringing this world to life. Spinning propellers are perhaps vital in a flight sim, in addition to all the moving wing flaps, but you can easily overlook the fish in the water, the birds flying from the trees and the people walking around the platform when you dock. In addition to the clear blue sea reflecting its surroundings and the casual transition from day to night, Brew Barons makes for a very pretty game. There are a few animated cutscenes to drive forward the story and a couple of shorter additions to transition between scenes, but for the most part, the gameplay is only interrupted by the occasional talking head. These are generally short interactions and have a nice slice of comedy thrown in, so they don't distract you from the gameplay and make nice additions in developing the characters and the story. Speaking of the story, set in the beautiful Adley Bay, a would-be pilot and a daughter searching for justice buy themselves half a plane and a bar/brewery and form the Brew Barons. Their mission? To brew the finest beverages in the Marriott Nation and stop the malicious activities of the brew pirates, that have created a monopoly for themselves by scaring off other brewers or stealing their goods. You build a team, a reputation, a large catalogue of beverages, and a collection of seaplanes as you progress on your journey to thwart the troublesome pirates. But that's not the whole story. Your 12 crew members all have a story to tell, and after a certain amount of flight time, with the appropriate co-pilot, you'll unlock a side story adding depth to the characters, lore to the world around you, and a variety of mini-games. There's a lot to say for the user interface. The UI is clearly presented and well explained during the opening tutorial. In the top left you have your pilot and co-pilot. Attached to the pilot is the plane's fuel level and cargo capacity. Then we have navigation tools, a compass in the middle of the screen, wing balance in the top corner, and speed and altitude just below the co-pilot. Just below the pilot is the throttle gauge, that's the plane's speed, and any red portion of the throttle gauge means the plane has taken damage, which will impact the plane's performance. A little indicator at the top of the throttle gauge tells you if the plane is set in forward or reverse. As we progress a bit, we will then see a list of items appear under the cargo meter. This tells us exactly what we're carrying. At the top right of the screen it tells us information about our contracts, and if there is an active mission, we'll get a task appear in green. That's a lot of information, neatly compacted on screen, so that we can still appreciate the surrounding landscapes and have better visibility flying. Every interaction between the controls and UI clearly does something on screen, which provides a great user experience, although there are some negative points which I will touch upon in the game design. There's more UI beyond the flying mechanics. There are quite a few menus to navigate, but another key part of the game is the brewing menu, and this almost works better than some of the programs I use in my day job. If you select the contract menu, you will see any accepted contracts and any pending contracts. Select a pending contract in order to accept it. You can then pin the contract so you can keep track of what it is you need to make. Head on over to the recipe menu to see a full list of recipes you've collected. You can browse through these or filter it by a specific ingredient. We want to make a good vodka with the main ingredient of prickly wheat, which is at least 3 stars of quality. So we can also pin this recipe to the screen. Create your brew. Throw in the necessary ingredients. Note you can switch between the number of ingredients you have put in and the percentage of the drink they make up. It's important that you keep the percentages above the requirement listed in the recipe. You then need to consider the ABV, that's alcohol by volume, as you throw in the yeast. You can then choose to ferment or distill your concoction in this one-stop shop brewery to make the appropriate beverage. Finally, go crazy with your bottle design, because we all know you can judge a book, or a beer, by its cover. Note you can import your own images for both the bottles and elements of the plane design, so there's potentially a lot of fun to be had here. Brew Barons gives you the opportunity to play with either controller or using the mouse and keyboard. Both offer a slightly different gaming experience. With the mouse and keyboard, you use your mouse to guide the direction of the plane, and the keyboard buttons to control the power, weapons, and so on. With the controller, you direct the plane with the analog sticks, and the various buttons trigger the weapons and other powers. Personally, I preferred piloting the plane with the controller. It felt more interactive and also more manoeuvrable, but I would switch back to the mouse for the menus as these were otherwise quite hard to navigate. This game offers quite a bit for replayability. Once the story is done, it's done, but whilst this game has a nice little story, it isn't the main selling point. For me, the enjoyment came from casually travelling between islands, tweaking my planes, outsmarting the pirates time and time again. Once you complete the game, you can play it in free mode, enjoying your success with a full catalogue of drinks and taking contract at your leisure. Or you can start a new game. When you start a new game, you can choose your first 2 pilots and, when the world is generated, it is randomised each time, meaning every time you play this game, you will get a completely different experience. In addition to the world changing, you can try different combinations and configurations of your plane as you take on the various pirate captains. Once unlocked, the different ports have time trial races and other games to experience, so there is still plenty more challenges to take on when you have finished the main story. Unfortunately, whilst they have radios on these planes, they don't take full advantage of it. The playlist in this game is limited. There are only 4 or 5 main tracks as you go through the game, but they are worth listening to. And the main one you will hear as you casually navigate between the islands is a very gentle tune which captures all the essence of adventures as you fly through the skies, with a slight touch of an Italian cafe. Enter into battle with the pirates for a much more intimidating number, or enjoy the subtle rhythms as you modify your plane or craft brews. In addition to the music, the game has voice acting throughout. This helps add personality to the characters, lets you focus on the flying, and also takes away some of the pitfalls of the talking head cutscenes. You get more of a sense of how the characters feel when you can hear it in their voices. Goiko is the exception. He's just angry all the time.
Those pirate jerks. I'll make them sorry for all they've done. Just you watch.
I'd like to say this game is quite accessible, or at the very least, the developers have put some thought into making it accessible. To start, the game has an easy, medium, and hard option, impacting combat conditions, pilot fatigue, and overall progression. I played it on a medium difficulty, and once I had come to terms with piloting the plane, I didn't face any additional challenges in completing it. If you do struggle to land the plane, there is also the ability to dock whilst flying, cutting out one of the more challenging features. The ingredients stand out clearly from other scenery, making it easy to differentiate. However, if you have any visual impairment, you may struggle to identify some of the ingredients hidden under the water. Again, the game has you covered, as you can modify your plane to highlight these items, making them easier to collect. You can also get your co-pilot to assist in fighting the pirates, making the battles considerably easier. There are also a number of other configurable items in the options menu, from controls to text size. Some of these still need to be refined, but overall I would say the game has a good accessibility rating. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, the game is only available in English, and whilst the developers have commented they would like to translate it into different languages, that would be a considerable time and cost effort, especially if you were to include the voice acting. Let's have a quick look at the Kickstarter. With a goal of 20,000 Canadian dollars, they just about cracked it with 334 backers, funding just over 23,000. That's roughly 15,000 euros, and I think this game is worth every penny. Perhaps more impressive, if we take a look at the credits, excluding the voice acting, this game was developed by just 3 people. Everyone else here are Kickstarter backers. So well done to you guys, and thanks to you guys. I'll glance over some of the negative game design elements, as I feel like I've been preaching about this game a lot, and a spoiler warning as I'll be showing some elements of the boss designs. This is a well-designed game with a lot of good ideas, but they're not 100% polished. Let's start with the brewery menu. Almost on par with Microsoft Office, you can pin recipes and filter by ingredients, but when you actually craft the drink, those options disappear. But hey, you pin the contract again and if you look in your inventory, it will highlight green if the drink matches the contract. That's awesome, but why not throw in a filter option here, or another method to say you have it in stock? This functionality is also only available if you are in the brewery, despite the menus being available elsewhere. As much as I love the soundtrack, the flights between islands does become cumbersome. I often try to entertain myself on these journeys by doing aerial acrobatics and end up crashing my plane, thereby losing my cargo and paying for repairs. You can transfer goods to your headquarters from shipyards on the other islands, but that doesn't make the back and forth any easier. An element of fast travel would be beneficial. Alternatively, I have 6 planes and 12 crew members. Why can't I delegate some activities? And on the topic of crashing, I did this a lot. Not because I'm a bad pilot, I promise. But to get a boost, you need water in the tank, and to get water, you need to be less than 40 meters from the water's surface. That's a prime crashing opportunity. If you're less than 10 meters from the surface, you get some handy indicators to tell you if it's safe to land. But again, that is dangerously close if you don't intend to land. And there is a reflection in the water, but you don't really see that until you've landed. There are multiple solutions to my problem. Increase the height of the water intake, or make the altitude level more prominent, especially when you're in the red zone. Switching from the negative to the positive, there are 4 kinds of boss battles: plane, submarine, ship and airship. Each of these bosses have a unique way to overcome their defences. At first, this was a very frustrating activity, as the game doesn't really give you the opportunity to stop and think. But once you solved these puzzles, it was very satisfying to take down the bosses. Certain plane modifications such as co-pilot attacks and homing missiles helped greatly in solving the riddle. Sadly, once you had solved the puzzles, beating the bosses was all too easy, so a bit of added variation would be beneficial there. In general, I can't fault the game design. This is already a well-built game, and I know the developers are still hard at work to iron out the final product. So for my final verdict, I love this game. There are things that could be improved upon. For example, it's not obvious you have to unlock the mini-games, and there is so much content available that it's a shame it's not available from the start. But it's also very enjoyable to play, to explore, and to fend off the pirates. Ultimately, I just wished I lived here. If you have a drinking problem, I'd probably say it's not for you, because this game is all about the brew. But there's nothing to stop you jumping in the pilot seat and taking down a few pirates. Brew Barons is currently available on Steam only. I don't know if LifeTap Studios has any intention to release the game on other platforms, but I hope you get the chance to play it. It does seem like the perfect game for chilling on the couch if you're a console gamer. Anyway, if you've played the game, let us know what you think. If you haven't, why not give it a go? That's it for today. Keep gaming, and I'll catch you next time.